Good evening. There are a lot of people on YouTube talking about accents and dialects, but I don't think anyone has ever mentioned this book, which is probably the earliest attempt to investigate dialects in Great Britain systematically. This was written by a man called Alexander John Ellis, who was acknowledged by George Bernard Shaw as one of the inspirations behind his character Henry Higgins in the play Pygmalion. The title is a very the book is a very long title, but it's usually just referred to as On Early English Pronunciation Part 5. And if you scroll through this copy in the Internet Archive, which is available for free, this book was written in 1889, so it's long out of copyright. You can start to see all the places he visited, and you can see he designated all these different dialects as in number one, number two. Now, as you go through, eventually you'll get to a list of sites, and it tells you just all the places he investigated, which I think was 8 or 900. And next to each one, he writes which dialect area it was in. Say, for example, Bedfordshire. There were 16 places, and they were all in dialect area 16. So that's quite simple. But then Berkshire was split between areas 5 and 8. And if you look closely, or perhaps if you zoom in, you can see which one. So Bucklebury was in area 5. Chelsea was in area 5, but then some others, such as Hurst, was in area 8, and Wargrave was in area 8, and so on. So, how did he do this? Well, he had a few different methods, and these changed over time, actually. He, refined his methods as he went, like any good scientists. But there are two main things. One is the comparative specimen. Why John has no doubts. That's quite a long one. There was a shorter one called the dialect test. And the idea was to get all the different sounds of English. As you might expect, he concentrated more on vowel sounds because they do differ more in English than consonants do. And how did he record them? Well, the International Phonetic Alphabet had not been invented yet, so he came up with a few of his own ideas. So, this proto-phonetic script, he wrote down how each sound should be recorded and asked his helpers across the country to follow this. Now, some of you might be a bit sceptical, thinking in the late 19th century, how could he possibly ensure consistency across the whole of Great Britain applying this? And, that's a criticism many dialectologists have made, and it's fair enough. But the proof of the pudding is in the eating, just how accurate are his tests. Well, just for a bit of fun, I'm going to do two of them. So, these are both from Yorkshire. I originate from a place called Ossett. Now, the nearest two dialect tests are Upper Cumberworth, which is a little village just east of Huddersfield, and Barnsley, which is a larger town. I'm going to attempt doing both of these, having learnt about the phonetics. You'll see they are slightly different from one another because back when this was written, dialects were very diverse across the country, even across small areas. I'm just going to do the dialect tests because the comparative specimen is a bit long, but let's start with Upper Cumberworth. I say, lads, you seen now I'm right about that little lass coming through school yonder. She's going down road there, through red gate on left hand side at the road. Look, child's gone going straight up to Rangar's. We shall up and find that drunken deaf wizened old filly at the Carl Tom. We all known him very well. Willn't told chaps so him teacher not to do it again, poor thing. Luke, isn't it true? Now I'll go straight to Barnsley. I say, lads, you're seen out, I'm right, about that little lass coming for school yonder. She was going down to road. Start again. I say, lads, you'll see now that I'm right about that little lass coming for school yonder. She was going down to road there, on the left-hand side of road. See ya. Child's gone straight up to Rangdoor, where she'll happen find that drunken deaf wizened fella as for Carl Tommy. We all know him very well. We ain't told chaps suing teacher not to do it again, poor thing. See ya. Isn't it true? Now, when I was doing that, it was quite hard for me to do the R sounds because, well, the R sounds are not used in Yorkshire anymore. It's not natural for me at all to say things like yonder and poor with an R at the end. A problem with this is that when these tests are the same as what has been recorded later on, we know that Alexander John Ellis is right, but if it's not the same, then we don't know whether he was wrong or whether things have just simply changed since 1889, and that's a good case that, say, these are R sounds recorded in Yorkshire, which, well, at least for areas such as Barnsley, I mean, it's long since gone that anybody was pronouncing an R at the end of a word like that. But that the case in 1889, and because he was a pioneer mode of phonetics, most other people around at the time weren't paying such close attention to things like that, so we're not sure. Anyway, I'll stop there. I hope that wasn't too bad, and I'll speak another time.